With all the college sports realignment news that's been going around, I feel like one of the stories that is totally going under the radar is the fact that there's a program at the FCS level that is now starting a football team. Every once in a while, a school that hasn't had football will start it up as they help the university or try to help the athletics program grow. Some of the schools I can think of that did this recently are UTSA, which started their team in 2011, Georgia State, who started theirs in 2010, Charlotte, who did it in 2013, and then Kennesaw State, who started it in 2015. There are currently two schools that are doing this right now, as that is Texas Rio Grande Valley and Chicago State. This video in particular is going to be about Chicago State. Chicago State is not known for having a ton of athletic success, but they're hoping to build into the future and help build a football program that will get them on the map. In today's video, we're going to do a spotlight on this new team, talk about their history, what the expectations should be for them, and my thoughts on them moving forwards. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about how Chicago State finally got a football team. Okay, so what's actually kind of cool is the head coach of Chicago State is actually someone by the name of Bobby Rome. I actually did a video about him about 5 years ago on the channel, and now he's the head coach, and he dropped a comment on one of my YouTube videos, so it's kind of cool. So hopefully he sees this, and let's talk about the history of Chicago State real quick. Chicago State is a bit of a unique university. It was founded in 1867 as Cook County Normal School before becoming the Chicago Teachers College in 1938 and then Chicago State College in 1967. During this whole time, it was pretty much always struggling as an institution in the beginning, and it almost shut down in 1932. The state of Illinois took it over in 1965, and due to its location on the south side of Chicago, its student population grew to become largely black by the 1950s. It even has the distinction of being a PBI, or a predominantly black institution, which is kind of like an HBCU. But it's been struggling financially recently, as in 2016, the university had no state funding, and they had to lay off pretty much every single one of their professors. They dropped to 86 total students, and it looked like the university was going to shut down. Their push to start a football program looks like it's been in the hopes of getting some more visibility for the university and bringing it back from being on the brink of shutdown. They first started an athletics program in 1966 as a member of the NAIA Independents. They joined their first college conference in 1977 when they joined the NAIA Chicagoland Collegiate Athletic Conference, but they only stayed there for 4 years before becoming independent again in 1981. They would join Division I a few years later in 1984, and then join their first Division I conference in 1993 when they joined the East Coast Conference. But the East Coast only lasted 1 year before it fell apart, and Chicago State had to go to the Summit League, which was then called the Mid-Continent Conference. They would then leave the Summit in 2006, and were independent again until 2009 when they joined the Great West Conference. They were there for a few years until they joined the Western Athletic Conference in 2013. Now, there was some talk about them starting a football program, but the WAC just lost all of their football playing members, so Chicago State didn't feel the need to add a team then. They stayed in the WAC until this past season when they joined the Northeast Conference. Now, the first thing you'll notice is that none of these conferences had football teams in them, and Chicago State wasn't ever really in a position to add one. But the second thing you'll notice is that Chicago State was never competitive in any of these. The men's basketball team has only won one conference tournament in 2013, back when they were in the Great West. That was when they were an NAIA team, and they made the tournament 3 times but didn't win anything. Their best finish was 3rd place in 1984, and this past year they made the CBI but only won 1 game and lost their second. All time in 41 seasons at the D1 level, Chicago State's men's basketball team is 330 and 880, or around 26%. They have a claim at being the worst Division I basketball team of all time, and that's not good. But also, like I said earlier, Chicago State, the university, is having trouble getting students to enroll. So in 2023, they put out a statement where they announced they're putting more funding into starting new athletics program. In that statement, the Board of Trustees looked at starting a handful of new women's teams, but the major news drop was that they were starting public funding towards a new FCS football team. The president said, quote, "I appreciate the contributions of our Sports Expansion Exploratory Committee to Chicago State. As a regional public university in Chicago, we are committed to implementing strategies that will enhance the student experience and support the economic development of our community." Reading between the lines here, the reason for starting those new sports was to enhance the student experience, which basically means to try to draw more students into enrolling at Chicago State. Howard Griffith, who was a part of Chicago State's Exploratory Committee, was also a great football player at Illinois and played in the NFL for a long time. He said, quote, "Expanding women's athletics and having a Division I football team will make such a positive impact on the community." From young aspiring athletes in the neighborhood schools to local business owners, I'm proud to be part of this process, and I look forward to great things from the Chicago State Cougars. According to Brandon Marcello on Twitter, Chicago State's desired conference was actually the MEAC, or the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, which is a conference of HBCUs. There were still a lot of issues for the program, though, as they don't have a football stadium slated for their first season, and they don't even have a practice field as of the release of this video. The university discontinued their baseball team in 2020 due to money issues, so there is some thought that they could play at their old baseball stadium. It's big enough to be repurposed into a football field, but there are no seats or no real locker rooms, so a lot of construction would have to take place. There's also the possibility they could play at another school's field, and Soldier Field has allowed college teams to play there every once in a while, but with a tiny fan base, it doesn't make much sense for Chicago State to start a team and pay a lot of money to rent the Bears Stadium. Just nuts. The next problem was starting their search for a head football coach. According to the university, they started the search a couple of months ago, and given the monetary restrictions that Chicago State has, it was going to be very difficult to find a head coach who would be willing to start a program completely from scratch with one of the lowest budgets in college sports, but they actually ended up finding their guy, and that was Bobby Rome. A while back, I did a video on Coach Rome since his story is crazy, as he played fullback at North Carolina and then had some stops in the NFL. His first stop was as a co-offensive coordinator at Norfolk Christian in 2010, and that was at the high school level, and then in 2012, he became the interim head coach of the Carolina Force, which was an indoor football team, and they finished at 3-3. Coach Rome then became an assistant coach at St. Petersburg State in 2013, and that was not in Florida like you're probably thinking, it was in Russia. He stayed in Russia, taking the head coaching job at Far Eastern Federal University, and in 2014, he coached there until 2016. In 2016, he returned to the States to coach North Carolina's club football team, and then in 2018, he left there to become the first head coach at Virginia Lynchburg of the NCCAA. He then took over Central State in Ohio in 2020, which is an HBCU in Wilberforce, and then he coached there for 2 years before taking over at Florida Memorial, located in Miami. They had just reinstated its football program after being shut down since 1958, and he was there until 2024 when he decided to take the head coaching job at Chicago State for their first year of competition in 2026. Through all that, he has a 19-36-1 career record as a head football coach. That may not look like a stellar resume, but he's done it at a ton of lower-level colleges in both the United States and Russia. He has been all over the place and has a lot of experience coaching different players. There were a few reasons why Chicago State would pick Coach Rome, but there's also a few reasons why he would choose Chicago State. Coach Rome said, quote, "The resilience of our community, the resilience of the people that live here, and the toughness of the people that live here, I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of the fabric of Chicago, and I know they play great football out there. Chicago State is providing an opportunity to the community, and I just wanted to be an ambassador for Chicago State." President Z. Scott said, quote, "The university is looking forward to watching Coach Rome step into the role and build a program that makes Chicago State and all of Chicago proud. This hire is a testament of the recent growth and transformation of Chicago State, showcasing our commitment to the community, our students, and our staff." Instead of the MEAC, Chicago State ended up joining the Northeast Conference for men's and women's sports in 2024, but that conference is built up by teams that are really far away. Central Connecticut, Farley Dickinson, Lemoyne, Long Island, Wagner, Stonehill, Mercyhurst, and Duquesne are all pretty far across the country, and Mercyhurst is actually the closest school to Chicago State, and it's almost 7 hours away. A better conference to join would have been the Missouri Valley Conference, but that conference is built up of more well-established schools and would not be very good for them to try to grow in. Imagine them playing against North Dakota State. That wouldn't look good. They want to start a scholarship-level team, so a conference like the Pioneer Football League doesn't make any sense, and if I were them, though, I would start looking at the team to try to develop them into the Ohio Valley Conference, which has other schools in Illinois like SIU Edwardsville, Eastern Illinois, and Western Illinois. The other schools in this league are based in Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Indiana, meaning the travel would be a lot easier for Chicago State than in the Northeast Conference or even the Missouri Valley, and clearly Chicago State thinks so too, because their soccer and golf teams also played in the Ohio Valley in 2023 and 2024 before they joined the Northeast. So yeah, Chicago State will be the only FCS or FBS team directly in Chicago, since UChicago is D3 and Northwestern and Northern Illinois are in the suburbs. But there will be a lot of other problems that will face the Cougars in the upcoming years before they even start. Most of them come down to money issues or other things, and I personally hope they're able to make it and start a new program, as well as revive their university, because it's always fun seeing smaller programs have plenty of success. I still remember when Kennesaw State turned into a powerhouse at the FCS level, and now they're already at the FBS. Granted, they're horrible, but give them some time. I don't know what the future holds for Chicago State, but I'm hoping they're able to make it work. But what do you guys think? If you're a Chicago State fan or a Chicago resident, what do you think of this football idea? How do you think it'll end up working? And what team or program should I cover next? Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below, subscribe if you're new, and check out some of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.